Right, good day, Junior Techies. My name's Mr. P. I'm taking you through this video that we are going to be doing today, and it's going to deal with question 1 of our worksheet. So do make sure you get a hold of the worksheet. Try those questions, particularly in question 1. This is where we're focusing today, and then see how well you've done. We're going to be working through these, doing a little bit of exam technique, showing you how to analyze the question to make sure that you know exactly what the question is asking for. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is, and I'm making a few notes here, but the first thing we're going to do is when we deal with the question 1 is have a look and see what type of question we are looking at. In this case, question 1.1 is multiple choice, MCQ, group of questions, and the question states very clearly that we need to be writing only the letter next to the question number in order to answer these questions. Okay, so if we write down a word or a phrase in place of a letter, we're obviously not going to be getting full credit for our answers here. Okay, so now that we know what's expected of us in the question, let's deal with question 1.1.1. So here it says to us, study the table and answer the questions below. So let's make sense of this table quickly. So we'll see here in our first column we have gas, in our second column concentration of these specific gases in inhaled air, and this is a percentage concentration, so that's the unit of measurement here, and then the concentration in exhaled air, also percentage concentration. And we see the gases that we're going to be looking at are oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and water vapor. And you can see when we do a quick analysis here, with regards to oxygen, there is a percentage of the oxygen that moves across and is removed from the exhaled air. So there is a decrease in the percentage concentration with regards to oxygen. When we look at carbon dioxide, we go from 0.04% to 4%, which means between inhaled air and exhaled air we've got an increase in the percentage concentration of that specific gas. For nitrogen, we've got no change at 78%. And water vapor, we've got a slight increase from 0.96% to 2%. Now, just looking at the data in this table, it's giving us an indication of something that is actually happening in between inhaled and exhaled air. So there's a process taking place here. Now, we haven't looked at the question yet, so let's step across to that, and then we'll have a look at the options that we're given. Okay, so in question 1.1.1, the reason for the amount of oxygen still being high in exhaled air is because. So now we're looking for a reason to explain why we still have quite a large percentage concentration of oxygen in exhaled air. Okay, so here we're looking particularly now at that value when compared to that value, and now they want to know why is this still a high concentration. Okay, so let's quickly have a look at the options that we're given. Option A, oxygen is taken into the bloodstream and some diffuses back to the alveoli to be breathed out. Now, if you remember from one of the theory videos over here, these gases move via diffusion, which means from high concentration to low concentration. And if oxygen is moving into the blood, because the high concentration exists in the alveoli, then there is no way that it is going to move back out of the blood into the alveoli against the concentration gradient. So oxygen moves passively across a membrane. The process is diffusion. So we can eliminate option A over here. We eliminate it because we know that that is not possible when we look at the mode in which the gases are moving. So diffusion takes place from high to low concentration. If we look now at our next option over here, some oxygen does not reach the alveoli but remains in the bronchiole until exhalation occurs. Now that seems quite a viable option over there, but let's just look at the percentages. If we see the concentration in exhaled air being at 16% when compared to 21% that is in inhaled air, would it be right to say then that 16% of this oxygen, of this air, remains in the bronchioles? I don't think so. I think that's quite a stretch when it comes to option B. But nonetheless, let's move on to option C, and we see if option C gives us maybe a more correct answer here. Right. Option C. Oxygen is used in the body but oxygen is also produced in the body as a waste product, which is then exhaled. Now we know that that is not going to be true, so we can eliminate option C. Moving quickly to option D, only some oxygen in inhaled air diffuses into the blood and is used by the cells. Now, if we consider diffusion happening from a high to a low concentration, we can expect then that diffusion will take place until the oxygen concentrations are more or less the same on either side of that membrane, if diffusion has the time to take place adequately. All right, so that seems like quite a viable option for us here scientifically, more so than option B. So I would be inclined to select option D here over option B, so we can eliminate option B, and option D then would be my option for question 1.1.1. So we can start with eliminating the options that we know not to be true, then we can compare those that we left with, and we should end up with an option that we end up selecting that is most correct for us and based on what we know. Right, so that's 1.1.1. Let's have a look now at 1.1.2. So here we have a list of features that are supposed to sort of describe efficient gas exchange surfaces. So let's quickly have a look. Question 1.1.2, option 1, first feature. Large surface area. Now, is this a feature of a efficient gas exchange surface? Now, if you remember going back to one of the other theory videos, we did do the efficient gas exchange surfaces and what are the characteristic traits of a surface that makes it efficient. And what you will remember, or what you should remember, is that a large surface area is definitely necessary for efficiency in gas exchange. So I would say definitely option 1. Looking at option number 2, thin surface, yes. What this does is it allows for rapid diffusion across a membrane. A moist surface, yes, that's also necessary of a gas exchange surface because it allows the gases to dissolve into that moisture and bring them very close to the surface, and then it'll allow that movement across the membrane to take place a little bit more efficiently. And then many capillaries, this refers to an efficient or effective transport system away from the gas exchange surface. Okay, so we know that all 4 of these, looking at the options, are definitely part of what an efficient gas exchange surface would look like. So in this case, I would say that we're definitely looking at 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so let's have a look and see which options we're given that allow for all 4 of these options. And we do have one. We have option A that includes all 4 of them. So the most correct option over here is option A. Why? Because B, C, and D do contain parts, or should I say individuals, in that list of 4. So we've got options 1, 2, and 4, which exclude 3. 1, 3, and 4 excludes 2. 2, 3, and 4, which excludes 1. So the most correct answer here is definitely option A. All right, let's move across now to 1.1.3. Here we're looking at an earthworm, and an earthworm exchanges gases with its environment through its skin. What makes this gas exchange surface efficient? Now we need to select options A through D to see which is the most correct. Now, option A says to us, it is dry and diffusion takes place quickly. Now we know for an efficient gas exchange surface, we need a moist surface. So we know it is not going to be option A, because a dry surface is not a characteristic trait of an efficient gas exchange surface. If we look at option B, there's a small surface area to volume ratio. Now, if you remember animal diversity, it's a section in your work in grade 11. We can reflect back on that and say, right, okay, well, an earthworm does have quite a large surface area to volume ratio, which means it's an efficient surface. But the other statement says it has a small surface area to volume ratio. This means there is a need for some or other gas exchange system in the earthworm's body, and we know that it exchanges gases through its skin. So we know option B is probably not going to be the option we choose here. Option C, the earthworm's skin is moist. Well, that's true, and having a moist surface allows for it to have an efficient gas exchange surface. So I would say that's definitely an option that we're looking at now. We're looking at option C. Let's just reflect on option D. There are few blood vessels on the surface of the skin, and if we look at efficient surfaces, they need good transport. So we're looking for many blood vessels. So we know option D is also going to be eliminated here. So we're going to be choosing option C for 1.1.3, and that's going to be the best correct answer for question 1.1.3. Right, looking at 1.1.4, cilia are found lining which of the following structures? Larynx? No, that's where we find the voice box. Alveoli? No, those are the terminal ends of our, or they are the gas exchange surfaces, so we're not looking for cilia lining those surfaces over there. The trachea? Maybe. And our pleural membrane surrounding the lungs? Possibly not. So in terms of the trachea, I would say option C is definitely going to be the option we select here. 1.1.5, air breathed out is different from air breathed in because. So now we're looking at the composition of air in inhalation versus the composition of the air that's being exhaled. A contains less carbon dioxide. So air breathed out contains less carbon dioxide than air breathed in. I would say that's probably the opposite of what we're looking for here. B is cooler. 3 is drier. And D contains less oxygen. Of all of these options, I would definitely say that the most correct here is option D, because we know that when we breathe in, oxygen diffuses into the blood, so the air breathed out will definitely have a lower concentration or have less oxygen in it. 1.1.6, the lungs of a long-term smoker will have. So here we're looking at the effects of smoking. All right. The lungs of a long-term smoker, constricted bronchioles, well, we could probably explain that one in there. Definitely would have thinner walls. Well, we would think that's not a good thing either. Would have a large surface area. Would have an increased capacity for gas exchange. So now we know we're eliminating C and D, because a long-term smoker is actually reducing the surface area or the gas exchange surface area, which is decreasing the lungs' capacity for gas exchange, which means an increased capacity for gas exchange can definitely not be the option here. So we're looking to eliminate D, we're looking to eliminate C. So what we're left with is constricted bronchioles and thinner walls. Now, which one adds to the efficiency of a gas exchange surface? I would say that thinner walls would probably aid in gas exchange. So I would be inclined here to eliminate B as well, which means constricted bronchioles would probably be the answer here. And it makes sense because the lungs of a long-term smoker are probably going to be, especially when we refer to the bronchus, the little bronchiole or the bronchial tubes, they are going to be inflamed because of the cigarette smoke. So they're most definitely going to be a little bit more narrow and reduce the capacity of the lung. So I would definitely go here for option A as my answer. 1.1.7, which of the following does not occur during inhalation in a human? Does not occur. This tends to be quite a tricky question because here we're looking for the negative. All right, so let's quickly reason out our answer by looking at the options that we're given. 1.1.7a, pressure within the thoracic cavity increases during inhalation. The lungs expand. If it does not occur during inhalation, it will occur during exhalation, right? Okay, so let's see. Option C. The diaphragm contracts. Well, during inhalation, it does happen. Pressure in the abdominal cavity increases. Well, during inhalation, it does happen because of the diaphragm pulling down into the abdominal cavity. Remember, we're not talking about thoracic cavity there. We're talking about the abdominal cavity. which means we're probably looking at option A. So the pressure within the thoracic cavity increases. No, it doesn't. It decreases. So definitely here we're looking at option A. Let's quickly move on now to question 1.2, where we're looking at biological terminology. And again, the question asks us to write down only the biological term next to the question number in our book. So if we look at 1.2.1, the protective membrane surrounding the lungs, here we're looking at the pleural membrane or the pleura. Okay, so this is just a little bit of study work, and hopefully we were able to identify the biological term that's being described here. Question 1.2.2, a pigment that transports oxygen in earthworms. Well, the pigment that transports oxygen is hemoglobin. So we're going to write that one in there as our answer. 1.2.3, the main form in which carbon dioxide is transported in the blood. The main form, bicarbonate ions. Okay, so this is the dissociation of my hydrogen carbonate or my carbonic acid in blood to form hydrogen ions and bicarbonate ions. So the main form in which carbon dioxide is transported is actually in the plasma as bicarbonate ions, and then obviously inside of the red blood cells as bicarbonate ions as well. Right. 1.2.4, a cartilaginous leaf-shaped structure that covers the opening of the trachea. Epiglottis. Yes, you called it. All right. 1.2.5, the pores on the leaves of plants through which gas exchange takes place. Here we're looking at stomata. The gas exchange openings in insects. Now, from animal diversity, you should be able to identify this very, very easily. We're looking at our spiracles. Okay. Those are the gas exchange openings in insects through that hard exoskeleton that covers the outside of them. A part of the brain that controls the breathing rate. Here we're looking at medulla oblongata. And last one, 1.2.8, the tissue making up the rings that surround the trachea. We're looking at the tissue. So here we identify cartilage. All right. Okay, Junior Tukkies, well, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. This was meant to take you through some of the Section A type questions that you'd get in a formal assessment. Looking at the question, analyzing the question, and then making sure you know exactly what is required of you in answering that question. Okay, once again, just make sure you get a hold of the theory booklet, the worksheet, and the worksheet memorandum. Definitely help you in preparing for the end of the exams. This is Mr. P signing off. I hope to see you again soon.